Hey guys, this is Nikki Lynn and I own blingactions.com, and today I'm going to be showing you the overview of how to use the Epic Textures by Bling. If you're listening to this video, this came with your purchase, and this is just a way to help you utilize the set. Some people are a little bit nervous about how to place the skies in there, we're going to cover not only how to place the skies, but also how to cover images, add some texture and some depth to the images with the texture overlays. This set comes with several different cloud options and comes with several different texture options, so I'm going to show you examples of how to do both right now. So what we basically are looking at is, this is a before image. You can see that the skyline is pretty washed out here. What we want to do is add a background. We want to add some skyline to this, and then we want to run an action on it so that it will be a finished edit for a client. A lot of times spending the extra 10 minutes or so adding in a skyline on a really superb quality image will be the difference between you making a big sale on a 30 by 40 canvas or you maybe only getting an 8 by 10. So sometimes it's really good to spend that extra time on these types of images. You can see here that this is an example of what the after picture looked like here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead into our action set that you have just purchased. We're going to go ahead and play the sky texture placement. And basically what this is going to do is open up our hard drive. It's going to allow us to find the image that we want to place, and it's going to help us place it. And it's got pop-ups, so it's very easy to use. So let's go ahead and play that. The first thing you're going to notice is going to tell you to select the white area of the sky that you want to place and adjust the fuzzy slider so that you can select the areas of the image so that these will appear white on your mask. So all you need to do is just, power read through that and then just click continue. This color range box is going to show up, and what we want to do is choose this background area, this white area where we're going to want our sky to go, because it's going to help us create a mask to place this. And you want to have your fuzziness sort of high, because what's going to happen is you have these trees in the background in through here that have like sort of leaves, and there's some natural bokeh in through there. So some of them are going to be a little soft. I'll teach you later how to blend that into the skyline. But you want to have the fuzziness slider up. If you have it down, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a very not very defined border between the tree line and the skyline. It's going to sort of turn white. So on this fuzziness slider, when you're dealing with trees, make sure it's up kind of high. It's okay that part of this area is white too, because we can adjust the mask after. So let's put it at like 158 for this purpose of this image, 162, and we'll go ahead and click OK. Now another box is going to come up, and it's going to tell you to browse your hard drive and go look for your cloud image. Now this action set came with several cloud images, so wherever you save those on your hard drive, you can browse your hard drive and go to them. If you have your own cloud images, you can just browse to whatever folder. Now I'm going to click continue, and mine automatically took me to my cloud overlays because I've been using it today. So what I'm going to do is click on cloud number 7 because I think it will fit this image really well. And I'm going to go ahead once I have it clicked, and I'm just going to click place. You'll see that this has sort of these little squiggly lines. All you're going to want to do is just drag the image so that it fits the full width of the picture, and then all you need to do is hit the enter button on your keyboard. The next thing that will pop up, it will just tell you to stretch it if you need to stretch it and move it around. And then you're just going to want to edit and flatten before you run your action on it to ensure that it has the best results. Now, right off the bat, when you look at this, you can kind of see here, I'm going to move the cloud around a little bit so you can see what's happened here in the layers palette is we have the cloud image, and we also have created a mask when we went through our color selection. So now we have this mask in the background. So you can see that the clouds are moving, and they've only been placed in the background white area where you had selected. And in doing that, we now have the clouds only placed in that area where we wanted them placed. And we can sort of move them around. One thing that I like to do on my images, and you'll notice with the clouds that I've included in this, is that right here at the top of the tree line, you'll notice a little bit sort of like of a little white vignette sort of around the trees when you use a mask like this, depending on how much bokeh was there. So I sort of like to put a little bit of clouds in through this general area. Doing that will help the trees blend in with the background, and you'll get a very natural appearance, and that's what you want when you're adding in these types of textures. Now you can also go ahead and place that. I can move this around a little bit up or down as I want, and sort of pull it in to get a little bit more blue sky there. And I sort of think that looks pretty good the way that that is right now. So we'll go ahead and we'll say, okay, we like this. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is just go ahead and pull that up just a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and just click layer and flatten. And the next part of the action set that I just would like to show you real quickly is the one called Texture Edits Made Easy. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and play that. And when I do play that, you're going to notice here in the layers palette, I have two options. I have a turn up to blur it, and I have a turn up to sharpen. Now the turn up to sharpen will be used in the other textures that I'm going to show you on the barn doors in just a moment. But this one for the clouds, we would want to turn up to blur. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to just adjust the opacity in this layer. And you'll notice what's happening is this is going to add a soft blur to the entire image. What I want to do is give your clouds the same amount of bokeh as the trees, and by adding this blur you're going to be able to achieve that. So what I'm going to do now is, I don't want the blur on my subject or the foreground, so what I'll do now is just take a quick black brush here, just make sure black is selected, and at 100% I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to paint with this black brush on this mask, and this is going to start to take this off. I'm just going to take all of that blur off here. And then when you get up into the tree line, you can adjust the flow of that to the brush that you're taking it off. I'm gonna adjust it probably at about a 32%, and then we'll just sort of do a little bit of a smaller brush and just sort of go into the tree line so that this is a nice gradual blur. So the clouds are going to be blurrier than the trees, but the top of the trees are going to be as blurry as the top of the clouds. So it's sort of a natural definition there. And then you can go ahead and pull the opacity all the way up and sort of remove the rest of that blur off of the rest of the image here. Definitely make sure that there's no blur whatsoever on the subject themselves. So go ahead and just take that blur off. And you're going to notice on your layers palette that as we've taken that blur off, do you see how your mask is starting to turn black? Where it's solidly black, that means that there's absolutely no blur left. You've taken it all off. And then where it's a little gray, that just means that you have a little bit of it left, so up and through the skyline. So that's fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go up to layer and flatten. And then to finish this off, what we want to do is just go in and play an action on it and then just edit as usual. So what I'm going to do is just play a quick action from my inspiration line. If you've recently purchased this set, you may have purchased the inspirations with it because they were on a special deal if you bought them at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and play Over the Moon on this set. And you'll see that this has added some nice contrast to the background. We have a nice bokeh in the clouds, and we have the trees have the same amount of bokeh. On the layers palette of my Over the Moon, I have the option to paint in some color and paint in some warmth. So I'm just going to go ahead with my white brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and play around with the painting in some warmth on this. Just give me some nice warm sort of sun feel. You do want to make sure that you're not getting it. I just got it like on her face. So if that happens, all you do is just pick the black brush and then just brush it back off. It's not a big deal. That's the great thing about using masks, is that nothing is permanent. You can always decide to change your mind. And then the paint in color, I'm just going to go up in here and see if I like this on the skyline. And not really liking that so much. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. I kind of like the sky to be left more of a brighter blue. So we'll just leave that the way that it is. And then that's it. This is going to be the before image here, before we did anything to it. And then this is the after image after we added the skyline. I can move this box out of the way too. After we added the skyline and we added a little bit of the bokeh from the action set. The next one that I'm going to show you here is going to be, I'm going to add some texture to this image as well. So what we're going to do is, remember I was mentioned earlier that I really like the texture on buildings and barns and that kind of thing. So I just want to show you really quickly how we would add texture to this. So I'm going to go into the action. I'm going to go ahead and play the sky and texture placement. Go ahead and play it. And again, it's going to go through the same pop-ups it did before. We're going to adjust the fuzzy slider. So in this situation, what I'm going to do is click on these background areas where I want it to go. And you'll notice that his face is still going to be selected. So what we're going to need to do is I would probably move the fuzziness slider down just a little bit in this situation. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And remember, when we do that, we're going to go through our hard drive again. We're going to find the texture image. Now, there's lots of textures that came with this set, and you might have some also on your own hard drive. I'm going to go ahead and place this wood texture number 3 on here. Go ahead and place it. And I will just sort of drag this down so that it fits the whole thing. And then remember, you're just going to hit enter with your keyboard. And then it's just going to tell you to fit the canvas and then just to adjust the canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now you're going to notice here on this one that this texture's sort of been applied. Whoa, it's too much, it's everywhere. So what we're going to do is click on the wood texture number 3, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the opacity so it's down just a little bit. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I don't want this to appear on his skin. So what I'm going to do is just take the eraser tool, and I am going to erase part of the texture off of his skin. You can also do this by clicking on your mask and just choosing how much of the mask is showing. So if I want him to not be seen, I could just pick my black mask. I could pick on the sky placement area. Go ahead and reduce my brush size. And I could just paint this off him. Now, the advantage to using the mask is that you always can change your mind later if I make a mistake. If you use an eraser tool, then you're sort of stuck with the eraser is permanent and there's nothing you can do about it. So if I am selecting this mask area, it's the third option down right underneath the wood that I just placed. You'll see here if I blow this up. Now I'm taking all this texture off of his clothing and off of his hands, and I'm taking that off at 100% up here. The opacity is at 100%. Make sure you get all his hands and his clothing. Okay, so that looks really good. Now I have this really cool texture in the background. You can see if I shut this texture off, it's just regular, and then if I add it, it sort of gives me this nice, deep, amazing texture on here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower this just a little bit. I think I'm going to leave it about right there. And sometimes it's nice to just play with one of the overlay effects. Now, this is defaulted to normal, but if you decide that you want it to have a little bit more of an impact, what you can do is choose this little button up here and just choose overlay from the drop-down menu. And you can see how this sort of blends that texture more into the background. And soft light will also give you a similar effect, but a little bit lighter. In this situation, I really like overlay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that, and I've been very careful to brush the texture off of his face and skin. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten this layer. And the next thing that I'm going to do from this particular action set that comes with this is I'm going to go ahead and play the Texture Edits Made Easy. And remember we had talked before about the sharpening. Well, this comes with an image sharp, and all I need to do to see the sharpening is just turn this up. So you can start to see what's happening here in the background. If I turn this down versus turn it up, I'm starting to get a really solid definition of an amazing texture in the background. But we never want to add that much noise or sharpening to the skin. So what I want to do now is erase this from the skin. So again, now I'm going to pick a black brush at 100%, and I'm just going to, and I'll zoom in so that you can see, but I'm just going to take that sharpening. I don't really care if it's on his jeans, and I don't care if it's on his shirt. That's fine for this particular picture. It's a very rustic picture. And I'm going to go ahead and just make sure it's off everything. So I've done that. And I think that looks really cool. And now I'm ready to go ahead and play an action to finish this up. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab an action from that brand new line, the inspirations. I'm going to play Urban Legends. Urban Legends I love on barns and city streets and scapes. I just love the effect that it gives me. So once I play that, you'll see in the layers palette, we have all of these options over in here. Now we have the option to paint in some extra sharp here if we want to, but what I want to do is actually paint in color boost, and I want to paint in a regular booster. And then I also have a vignette and contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and paint on a color burn. So I'm going to make my brush size pretty big, and I'm just going to add this at 100% just so you can see the effect, and then we can sort of pull some of it away after if we need to. So basically what this is going to do is just sort of brighten and boost some of the mid-tone areas. You're going to start to see those mid-tones sort of jump off the page here. Gives you sort of like an HDR effect if you've ever seen that. And then I'm just going to click on the Paint on Boost layer, and I'll add that again at 100%. And it's just going to finish boosting this up just a little. And then the last thing that I want to do is my vignette contrast. I'm just going to add this, but I'm going to adjust the opacity. This is going to be very low. I'm only going to be brushing this on at about 11%. And I'm just going to sort of go over the darker areas in the picture just to sort of let it pop a little bit. Pull up the opacity so you can see it. So this is just giving this building some amazing texture. And then I have a couple layers here in the palette that are called Brush Off Skin. And if you feel like your image is a little bit too yellow or a little bit too red, you can go ahead in here with this action and just go ahead and we want to go at 100%. And you can just sort of brush that yellowy tint off the skin there. And there's 2 layers that are going to tell you that you should do that. So just go ahead and brush that off the skin in both of those instances. Get rid of that tone. And then that's just a quick overview of how you would add an action or a texture to your image and then run an action over it. So this is again is the before image, and then this is after we added the texture and after we ran the urban legends from the new inspiration line. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you have lots of fun using the textures in the clouds. They're such an amazing thing to add to your photography. One thing that I just like to note in all of my videos is the fact that when you're shooting, hopefully you're shooting raw. If you're not shooting raw, check into it and don't be afraid of it. It's a really great way to shoot. But when you're shooting raw, you are achieving a really high quality image, but the images always need to be edited. So don't be afraid to play around with your edits and sort of find what your style is, because that's really important as a photographer to set yourself apart from other people, is figuring out what that style is. And I also love it when you guys post to my wall. So I can be found at facebook.com/photographersbling. And please tag your business and say hi and let me know, what you thought of the action. And I love seeing before and after, so if you'd like to drop a note over there. And you can always reach me directly by visiting blingactions.com, and you can contact me right off the website. Have a great day, guys. Have lots of fun.